So I'm going to introduce Lori Cerna. She's with Cal Poly Payroll Services.
Good after lunch. How's everyone doing? That was good. It's fast. Well, what we're here today to talk to you about is a success that we've had here. So I am the Assistant Director, the University Payroll Manager for Cal Poly here. Payroll Services is a department within the Administration and Finance Division. So we do administration, hidden waste, lots of hidden waste. Eric's favorite thing. And what I love is a visual representation, and to me, this envelope represents waste in administration. It's waste of movement, it's waste of paper. It means that you're requiring someone to do something and walk it somewhere else for something else to happen. And to me, it's a great visual representation, so I really enjoy showing that envelope as much as possible. So the problem came to us from our management, and it's something that was self-evident to us in payroll services as well, is that our new employee intakes take too long and are too complicated. So not only does payroll services pay everybody here on campus, we also see every brand new student, staff, and faculty on campus, and we're responsible for doing things like their I-9 and their W-4 and signing confidentiality agreements. And over the years, this process has become the catch-all for you have a person standing in front of you that must go to you, and you see this person, and we may in administration never see them again. So we want you to have them look at this, read this, sign this, and over the years that has become this burgeoning intake process that is too long and too complicated. So we decided to do a Kaizen event. And in 2013, we had Eric come in and do a great facilitation. We had great representation, outside eyes, all the right people on the bus. We did some great work, looked at every single document, mapped the whole process, took a whole 4 walls. And at the end of it, we had some great data, which some of it had never been measured before, so it was a great eye-opener for upper management and for us. And let's go into those current state by the numbers in 2013. So we process about 3,000 new employee intakes annually. There at the time were 53 different documents in that intake. 33 of them were information-only handouts, so those were the things that people over the years decided that this person that was captive audience had to read and look at. 22 minutes it took, average, to complete that intake. 15 times, uniquely, the employees signed their names. 9 times they wrote their name. Oops. It's okay. 8 unique intake processes. So staff, faculty, student, retired faculty, special consultant. Those are all 8 unique processes that had 8 different versions. 4 times they wrote their addresses. Depending on whether you were staff or faculty or student, you went to 2 different offices to do your intake at the time. And then at the end of it, I know. There we go. Our one sad employee who's trying to understand everything I'm speaking to them and showing to them. So this quote is actually one that was given to us in the Kaizen. It's a great representation from an academic department's perspective on what it feels like to go through a new employee intake at Cal Poly at the time. So you may be saying to yourself, why lean? Couldn't we just know that this process is bad and then just go in and look at it and fix it? I mean, that's what any management would say to their folks. This process is obviously bad. The perception's bad. The numbers are bad. Just fix it. What does lean do for us? So these 5 things that are on this slide are what really, obviously there's lots of reasons what lean brings to, and Kaizen, what it brings to a process improvement project. But these are the things that we gleaned from it that were most important to us, is that you can't fix what you can't see. So if we're just blindly going along and we're letting all of our new employees do this intake with our one front office person and no one ever looks at how bad it really is, that's what Lean gave us. You can't fix what you can't see. And you can't manage what you can't measure. So if you don't ever take the time to go through your new employee intake with someone who's never done it before and actually time it, you're like, 22 minutes, really? It felt long, but 22 minutes? What it does is it looks for the root cause, not just the solution. So for us, that was great because there were so many things that that management just said, hey, we need to slap this solution on there. But once we got into it and found out where the root cause was, there were things we were doing that were no longer required. Forms that someone asked us to do 10 years ago that they've already done online and we never even had to for the last 10 years. Get that signature and hold those forms. Team goals and buy-in are supported. That's very important to me in our department, is that we work together as a team, and I want everybody on my team to buy in and feel supported on whatever we do. And then it changes culture. That's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is going through it and having everybody go, wow, this is awesome. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? It creates a revival. So what we decided to do is take the Lean journey of the new employee. And that's what we're going to be here to talk to you about today, is our 3 paths. Where do we want to get to? So we've got to start somewhere. So this statement was our mission, our purpose. Provide a simple employment intake process that blends customer-focused services with required functions, because that's the key element. We're a government shop. We're a state-run public agency. There are things we must do as employers. We must have a wet signature on this. We must look at your documents in person. We must touch them, actually. So there are things that we're required to do that are non-value added, but we must do them. So how do we do that and also provide value to our customer, our new employee? And then we also want to set the right tone for the Cal Poly employee experience. You're a brand new employee at a polytechnic university that's very well received and known. We're going to make you scrub the toilets? That's a horrible perception. And then how are we supporting our new employee and setting the tone for them to go, God, I'm excited. I'm a new employee at Cal Poly. And I don't think you have in your words your experience with a new student. Janae has actually had them take selfies with her because they're so excited that they are Cal Poly employees. So that's what we want. We want to set the right tone. So we came up with some short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, and we knew it was going to take time. What could we get right off? What was our low-hanging fruit? We did those right away in 2013. 2014, we hit the ground hard on our medium-term goals, and we've been chipping away at our long-term goals. Our blue sky are in the long-term goals. So the first leg of the journey is our short-term goals, and I'm going to pass it on to Janae.
All right. Thank you, Lori. So Lori had mentioned that there were forms that were outdated that departments had asked us to take on and didn't need anymore. So immediately before the Kaizen event was even over, we went ahead and eliminated 3 forms. It was a great way to start this change and this process too, because not everyone from our department was able to participate in the Kaizen event. So it was a great way to show that we were leading the process and not the people. I think a lot of people that weren't involved in the Kaizen event or don't know what Lean is think, I'm going to get laid off out of this. They're going to take away my job. They are not valuing me. So I think it was a great first step for that one. The next thing we did was we looked at our sacred cows. So slay the sacred cows and be okay with that, figuratively, of course. But it was great because when I participated in the Kaizen event, I'd only been there for about 5 months. And so I didn't know what was sacred and what wasn't until I started trying to take stuff away or change stuff. There was this form, the federal Form I-9, we printed on pink paper, 2 sheets, never, ever, ever double-sided. And I always thought that was so silly because I scanned all the paperwork, and you know what color it turns when you scan it? White. So that was one of my favorites. Prioritizing verbal information. So in our office, going through the 33 handouts, we called the speech that went with that the spiel. Staff members in our office would have to rehearse the spiel. We would get nervous about giving the spiel. And then after we would give it, we'd have employees sometimes say, wow, how did you remember all of that? And I remember always thinking, this isn't for my benefit. You're supposed to remember all of this. And that was the problem. It wasn't that the information wasn't important. It was just too much and not the right mode of communication. So that led us to our next short-term goal, which was we took all those 33 handouts and most of our spiel, and we put it on a website. Now the resources that we're providing for the new employee are actually resources. They're resourceful, because I'm sure most new employees did exactly what I did with my 33 handouts, which is put it in a file cabinet and never, ever look at it again. Another problem, too, is that we were creating codependent relationships. So we were talking to these employees on the new day, on their first day, giving them all of this information, and then they would forget. They'd come back to payroll and say, what did you say about my first paycheck? Then they'd leave and come back, and how do I change my withholding? We weren't empowering them at all. We weren't educating them. We were barely informing them, and that was really what we were trying to do. So now we had a place with this new employee website that was actually accomplishing those goals of the spiel. The last short-term goal that we did was the intakes, depending on if they were staff or faculty, were done in 2 different offices. So oftentimes an employee would come into the front office and say, it's my first day, where they would then get interrogated by us basically to try and figure out if they were in the right place. Are you staff? Are you faculty? Well, what kind of faculty? When's your first day? Oops, I don't have your folder, let me make a phone call. Obviously, none of this instills very much faith or confidence in your payroll department when you're the new employee standing there as the staff members fumbling trying to figure out who you are and whether or not you should be there. Not to mention, it doesn't make you feel good that you actually got the job if nobody in the payroll offices knows that it's your first day. So it caused confusion for the new employee, confusion and stress for the staff in both offices. So combining the intake into one office was huge. It also showed the staff of both offices, if you could make a change like that so quickly, because this was our short-term goal, that any change is possible. Any process change, and no matter how big or small, is possible. So it helps to create a culture of change with the payroll staff as well as HR staff and other departments on campus. So the next leg of this journey is the medium-term goals, but before I hand the baton off to Leslie Martino, I just wanted to quickly say what Lean is for me. So as a team member and under the Lean leadership of Lori Cerna, Lean has meant empowerment for me, because I know that I'm heard, and if I have a problem and I say something, that under Lori and the Lean leadership that she provides, she's going to listen, will address it. I have the power to change the processes I'm involved in. And if I don't say something, a lot of times she would never know that there's problems with those processes. So I have a sense of pride and empowerment. It helps me feel like I'm a part of a team and a culture of change, and we all work to make processes better. It also helps because I'm an introverted Taurus, and change for the sake of change is not something that I'm comfortable with. So knowing that we always have our true north to work towards, it helps me feel safe and protected in my job, and it helps every day feel fresh, knowing that it's not going to be the same every day, and it will get better. So with that, Leslie Martino.
I want to start off by telling you that I began working in Cal Poly Payroll in August, right before the busiest time of the year, which is the fall quarter. And I was so excited to be doing customer service and intake for the students, staff, and faculty. Well, the first thing they started me doing was getting prepared for that group. And my job was to make thousands of copies and then take those copies and compile over 600 individual packets looking at the 8 different types of positions that we support. So then I would get all those copies and set them up. I'd put them in a 2-drawer file, sit in front of it, and then sit there and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for this one, and put a paper clip, there's one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, oh, paper clip, this one. So it took forever, and was a little eye-opening for me. So that leads me to my first goal. Streamline all intake processes into one. By doing this, by streamlining them into one, we were able to reduce copying and packet preparation significantly, which empowered me to spend more time doing what I like to do and providing customer service. The second goal is route complete packets electronically instead of paper. Routing the data from payroll intake to the receiving department was physical. Either they would come and pick it up or I would take it to whatever department. The benefit we have now by the electronic data is it allows me not to be making those trips away from my desk, and also allows me to track the data no matter where it is in the process. So if somebody comes back and has additional questions about wanting to add a parking pass or other issues, I know where their documents are, so I could find it and I know how I can help them. The next goal, combine all unique data forms into one master form. 5 forms were combined into one form, creating the master data record. Thank you, Janae. Instruction verbiage was modified on that to clarify confusing instructions. This resulted in a reduction in the intake process, fewer clarification questions from the customer, and it provided me proof that the changes were working. Which leads me to completing forms online instead of paper. The current way that we did it when I started was the person would come in, I'd hand them a huge packet of papers. They would go to a counter, they'd put their papers down. As they completed them, they put them in a stack over here. If they had a question, they put them in a stack over here. So it really limited the space. I could maybe get 2, 3 people in, and during the busy time, that's just not acceptable. But now that it's online, we have a computer station, there's no papers flipping around, and we can line up, well, actually, we can add or delete computer stations according to the demand of the time. I'm nervous. Thank you. Okay. Reduce rework through education. This is really important. A lot of the things that delay the intake process were because the students, staff, faculty, they just didn't understand what was required of them. So we have taken it upon ourselves to reach out to the campus, to the students, to the parents, through presentations. We participated in campus events, connecting with the students and the parents and providing concise infographics, which have really been helpful. Participation in instructor-led courses focused on individuals responsible for hiring students, staff, and faculty. In closing, I'd like to say the changes that have been currently implemented have revealed a significant improvement to our customer service focus, and I'm excited for the long-term goals, and those will be shared by Lori.
So we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go, and I think that as we've been going through this, we kind of have been adding to our goals, and what's become self-evident is a lot of those short-term and medium-term goals led us to other things that we hadn't thought of that we were able to simultaneously attack, but not include in our presentation. But so we've come a long way, and I think the biggest thing that I would say about the short-term and medium-term goals, I think what the ladies have touched on is that it changed the culture, changed my staff's empowerment, changed the way they thought about things, and they are all questioning it, and that is what makes me proud. So to finish up, what we want to do next is, it's great, a lot of things that we've done, getting rid of paper, using imaging workflow, but what we really need to do, the crux of it, is to get to the root cause. Why do I have to have every employee in my office on their first day? What we want is to deliver an intake process that is 99% completed by the new employee before they ever start. So I want to be able to send a checklist and things that they need to fill out before they ever even come to the office. That way, when they come, our focus is welcoming them and not saying, here's a big stack of stuff to do, and I hope you have your Social Security card with you. I want them to be doing that at home where they have all the things that they need to fill out the forms. So we're chipping away at that. We need to deliver an intake method for offsite employees. What's interesting over the years that has happened is we've started to hire people as Cal Poly employees, and they never step foot on our campus. They're working in San Francisco or in LA. They're in architecture firms or engineering firms. They're working in kind of satellite areas for us, but they're our employees, and I still have the same obligation to make sure they are eligible and can work. So how do I deliver an intake method for offsite employees? We need to synchronize all software and systems. Tough decisions. These are hard. There's a lot of departments involved in this campus that would need to be streamlined for us to have systems where when the employee enters the data at home, that same data is then used all the way till I make them a check. And that is my goal. We need to synchronize all those systems so we all have visibility the entire way through. One person, the employee, is entering all the information, and I can cut a check based on what they gave me. What's missing also is that we need to blend intake with onboarding. We need to make sure that the employee feels connected. They're going to put down roots. We want people to stay here 20, 30 years. I've got a brand new shiny 22-year-old staff member. I want to see that person when they retire. So how do we keep them engaged and connected, and how do we encourage roots? And make sure that they know who to talk to when they have a problem. The last thing that we've been working on, and we're very close to, which is exciting to me, I look at the long-term goals and I go, wow, we're this close to one of them. And that is a self-service oriented new employee intake space in our front office. Right now, that's a shot taken around Thanksgiving, Halloween. There's Leslie right there. Excuse me, of my front office. It was remodeled in 2008. We have about 15 empty storage cabinets because we don't use paper. We are 99% paperless in my office. We have nothing in them. We have all this space behind Leslie, but everybody can peer over her shoulder. We have counters, that's great, but everybody's right in each other's business when they're trying to do their intake. So what we want is an intake space that's self-service oriented. So we got a team together. We did a little PDCA. We looked at our current conditions. We did a lot of diagrams. We did a lot of experiments. We said, oh, if we put a bank of chairs here, will people sit down? Do they want to have a seat? Right now, I have no place for anyone to sit. If we open this door instead of that door, will they change the way that they use the office? So we tried to map out our target conditions, what we want to get to, what our vision is, and we, with the help of our wonderful facilities planning department, came up with some different ways of looking at it. What you're looking at too is actually borrowed upon about 40 designs I got from Professor Olson's Greenbelt project student class. I got to do this presentation for them a couple months ago, and as part of their exercise I asked them, I gave them a blank layout of my office, and I said, now you know what we do, what would you do? What would you do if you had to design a self-service office for me? I got some great designs, some crazy designs, but it really helped because we're too close to it. We can't visualize it. This looks nothing like what we thought we would do in the office. So we're really excited about that. It's kind of a different view of it. So we had a lot of things that we wanted to achieve. So all of the staff got to participate and give ideas. What would they like to see? If we turn this desk around this way, what would that buy us? So that's something that we're close to. It's just now we're waiting on things like budget, the fun stuff. So lastly, to close this out, I think the wall of success, and I'm not going to go through them too in depth because we're almost out of time. But here we are, 2016. What have we done? How does it look for us now? Well, if you recall, we had 54 different documents in 2013. We're down to 11. Information-only handouts, 33 to 3. Times an employee signs their name 10 instead of 15. Times an employee writes their name once on the master data record and it feeds to everything else. Average time, 22 minutes to 10 minutes. And that was our high end when we were testing. We've had people go through it in less than 5. Just depends if they like to read everything or if they trust us. Customer perception, no longer like scrubbing toilets. Someone mentioned to me the other day when I said, hey, how was your intake? We've been doing some work on it. How did that go? They said, pleasant and painless. That speaks volumes to me. Savings of time. In 2013, we actually had to close our business hours between 8 and 9 just to prepare, just to get everything ready, make sure we're ready for the day, who is coming in the office. We no longer have to close that hour. We are open for service from 8 to 5. Savings of paper, 66 reams per year just for intake packets. And now we're down to 30 reams for everything, not even just packets. We're like trying to count. We're like, that's not even just for packets. That's our entire orders for the year. So that to me is amazing. And where I want to leave you is one of my favorite quotes. I loved Ken's. I was so excited to see Ken this morning. I don't know where he went. There you are. I read the shingle model, loved it. I actually keep a copy of it in my purse because when I'm bored elsewhere, I like to read things. It's very inspiring. It inspired me. This is my favorite quote from it. And I think, I know you don't like the perfection part, that was a great part, but to me what it tells me is that not just perfection, the passionate pursuit of perfection. And that is how I like to live my life and lead my staff. And I don't want to be a perfectionist. I know it's not attainable, but I want to always passionately pursue it, and that's what I want everybody to do in my office. That's all I had. Are there questions?
Yeah, let's get a question or two. I think that would be appropriate. Anybody have questions? Observations?
One week. It was 3 intense days. We did a couple follow-ups, but I think it was really just a week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if it was even a week. You know,
Yeah.
usually at Cal Poly,
Like
our
3 days.
format for Kaizens are usually like 3-4 hour day kind of things, right? Spaced out a little bit, yeah.
There was not a lot of time involvement. Just all the right people were there.
How have you organized your improvement work on a continuing basis?
Well, what's interesting that I was hoping we'd have time to say is that I actually was, Eric likes to refer MBA and Greenbelt students to me to work on projects just to see if I've got anything for them to do. And now it's been three years almost. We're actually going to be relooking at the whole process again with our students. And because I'm not satisfied with what we are still doing. And so we're going to relook at the entire process from soup to nuts again. So that's kind of where we're at. It's constantly improving.
Okay, let's give, one more question.
Prior to the administrative staff you're looking at right here, we had a wonderful woman who worked on our front counter for 25 years. We thought that she would be the hardest one to kill the sicker cows because she was holding on to them really hard. But in the end, she let go, and that was what was huge. I didn't think she would, but she did. She finally saw it, and she said, wow, I should have done this so long ago. She wrote the spiel, by the way.
Okay, let's give her a hand. Great job.
You guys did so good. Way to go.